Hi guys, Joanne Hamburg with the Real Estate Exchange, and thank you for joining us. Today I have Fiona King with the King team, Remax King team, and we are going to talk about self-storage units as an investment. So, Fiona, would you take a few minutes and just tell us about you and the King team?
Yeah. Well, I wear a couple of hats, as you know. You and I both met through real estate and also being neighbors. That was a blessing. And I actually used to work at Remax. I work as an agent with Remax, a broker, co-broker owner with my husband for a Remax franchise down here in beautiful Alabama, just north of Birmingham. As you know, we used to live in Massachusetts, but we relocated down here. And so do real estate, but I used to work in corporate for Remax, and then I stepped away, got off the merry-go-round, and then decided, what am I going to do next, right? What am I going to do when I grow up? So storage always caught my fancy, and I don't know why, because it's not glamorous. There's nothing sexy about it.
Yeah,
Yeah. But for some unknown reason, it just kind of piqued my interest. So I've always
I,
invested in real estate like yourself. Generally speaking, the last 12 years, I've been focused on vacation rental properties, but that market is being saturated and continues to be oversaturated right now. That's another story for
yeah,
another
right.
day.
Well,
Um,
I mean, like you got attracted to self-storage. I was attracted to mobile homes. I mean, everybody's got certain things that they like, and everybody likes something different.
Yeah, well, and that's funny how that occurred. And life's such a journey. You never know where you're going to end up. So we had some hurricanes along the beach where we had some vacation rentals, and I said, I'm done with this. I want to try something new. So between my job change and the hurricanes and COVID, decided that I was going to embark on a journey of self-storage.
It's
And
awesome.
yeah, so I cut my teeth on a self-storage facility in a kind of a podunk area, I'm going to say. It's on the way, though, to a very, very large lake here. That's about 21,000 acres. So it's a kind of a playground for people. So I thought, you know what, that might not be a bad place to have a storage facility because it's not I'm not competing in a highly populated, densely populated area. So I started with that. That was a facility that had failed twice. And I thought,
How many units?
piece on that. So I started out with about 26 units, and it had an office, two offices, or an office that had, or suite that had two separate
Two
offices that
offices.
were
Yep.
additioned, et cetera. I've converted those out of being an office and into being additional units because storage is really comes down to monetizing every square inch that you can provide to people for storing their goods.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So that how many, so that's how you basically got started. Who introduced you to this self-storage facility that you ended up buying it? Like, how did you
So
find it?
embarrassed to say that I was driving down the road one day and I just saw a sign, a rickety sign saying for sale. And I just called up, and the next thing I know, I bought the place. So there wasn't a lot of science around it. It was cheap and cheerful. I just figured I really got it for what the reconstruction cost would have been, not even,
Mhm.
less appreciation on the building, et cetera. So I got it for an extremely good price. And so it was a really good project for me to start with. But, lessons learned. I'm like the poster child for, learn as you go. And I would strongly suggest maybe learning from some of other people's mistakes first would be maybe if I had to look back and say, I'm going to do this differently, I might have actually done it with a little bit more forethought, shall we say. And I would encourage people to do that because people do exactly what I did, which is jump into the market and hope for the best. And not a great way to do things. I have a second facility now that I took a totally different approach with when establishing that. So, um,
So, what attracted you though to the self-storage as an investment? Like, did you see any other models before? Were you looking at, you know, like looking at how is your profit going to be? Like you have so many units based on, did you
Right,
have a
right.
specific formula?
That's a couple questions. So I guess, when you are looking at storage facilities, what attracted me to it? Well, to the business itself, I love the concept of being able to monetize land, and not, in the past I'd had, traditional rentals, I'd had vacation rentals. Your challenge is that you are basically, you've got the landlord and tenant act to deal with, which can be really onerous for the property owner. So I wanted to get into something that was a lot that I could, automate, that I could envision automating so that I didn't have to spend as much time with my investments as I was with rental properties. Does that make sense?
No, that sounds, I mean, anything you can automate, especially, it's just so much easier to, get things done. I mean, and that way, everything's done systematically, it's done the same, and getting payments made on a regular basis. I'm sure you got everybody set up on online payments and everything.
Well, so what I will tell you is, so here's the lessons learned. I could give you a lot of lessons learned. So day one, first of all, you want to make sure before you close on your property, you want to give yourself a conditional period when you're looking at buying something to make sure that you can get decent insurance coverage.
Oh,
Because insurance has gotten so expensive, and also it has gotten very rigid around the types of storage facilities that it will insure. Perfect example.
makes sense.
We're around a recreation area, and we have a lot of people that want to store boats, boat trailers, RVs, et cetera. They want them covered, but the insurance companies will only let you cover three sides. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to get insurance. Yes. And so that's something new. So you've got a lot of people who have these four-sided, fully enclosed, very large storage facilities for RVs, et cetera. And the insurance companies now are making it almost impossible to place policies on them. So these are the types of things you want to do in advance of buying one of these facilities, is make sure of that. Second of all, ask for leases. Okay, you want to make sure that the previous owner has proper leases with every one of the people that are storing with them. And you want to see how many people are actually paying their bills. And a lot of people don't use technology. So at the end of the day, you actually might end up with a file folder like I did of leases dating back 5 to 10 years that were not valid based on current laws, et cetera. So you have to really know what you're buying. And then clean up after the sale closes can be a challenge. The facility that I bought had no technology, no website, no perimeter fence. So the security was not great there, which what gives us as storage owner, facility owners, a huge exposure, and so, I really bought something that needed to be improved. And if you're going to buy something, you want to make sure that you can increase the size of it so that you can increase revenues so that you can immediately try to up the amount of money that you have coming in. Because if you are buying something, you're not buying it cash, or you're financing it, or you're getting some sort of deal on earnout, you want to make sure that you're not just making your payments, that you're actually making a profit. So
Yeah, you don't want to get into a project and be $10,000 a month in debt. And then, but it's nice, like you put up fence so that improve the property for your current tenants, I guess you would call them, storage tenants.
and so now you can say, okay, so now I can legitimately put the price up of the units even for people that are there now.
Yeah.
But I had to impose a lot of changes. So I went in, I put a perimeter fence in. Perimeter fencing is wildly important for storage facilities. And you'll see a lot of them out there that do not have fencing.
Yeah.
Here's the challenge. One is security for your customers. Also, your liability or exposure that you can have as an owner, even if you have something that says, I am not liable for any loss. which you should have,
Hmm.
it's still going to create headaches. Okay, I guess this facility that I had purchased and it was never disclosed to me they'd have break-in after break-in, or at least that's what the owner, what I was told by the existing tenants, that they had lost quite a few of their belongings. You can't provide tenant insurance, generally speaking, unless you have a perimeter fence. And that's an optional insurance product that, once again, you want to provide.
And probably security cameras.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So that's step two, is to get those security cameras in there, which is really important. But I want you to think about this. If you don't have a gate, you don't have security cameras, great point, Joanne. How do you know who's going in and out? So if there is a security breach, how are you going to be able to tell when it happened, where it happened, who got in without a code, a proper code, et cetera? So it allows you to start to take control of your facility. You're also you may have people who are renting from you who claim they have been broken into.
Yeah, I had a friend years ago that managed a self-storage facility, and they had a gate. You had to know the code to be able to get in.
Yes.
And, she was an on-site security assistant, I guess, but she was like the receptionist. So when
Yeah.
somebody came in, they had to get through the gate and then they had to, go see the on-person receptionist to come and go. So at least there was some kind of security on who was coming and going in the property.
Well, and it's really, really important to have that. And there's another element to having a fence. It allows you to further take control over people who are delinquent.
Oh, that's true.
Okay. So generally speaking, if somebody's delinquent, you give them notice, et cetera. And there's usually certain state laws that mandate how much notice you have to give to somebody before they're late, what their late fees can be, et cetera. So you really need to familiarize yourself with whatever your state's regulations are around late fees, auctions, et cetera. And by the way, auctions are not glamorous like they are in storage wars. But anyway, I'd like to
I'm
define
sure they're not.
They're really, really not. But I want you to think about this. So you have somebody that's late. Maybe they're going on 2 months late or 3 months late. They owe you several $100s or more, plus late fees. And all you can do if you don't have a gate and you don't have a perimeter security fence with barbed wire is you just overlock it with a second lock. Well, easy for somebody to come in and
Got it.
yeah, that off. So you don't have cameras, you don't have a perimeter fence. How do you monitor that? How do you control that? So I will tell you that having that fence had the added bonus of being able to take control of people who are falling behind and be able to forge a resolution with them, but not have people leave in the middle of the night and not having paid you.
Is it difficult to do like a foreclosure and eviction on those tenants?
That's a really, really great question because we know in real estate it can be a nightmare. And once again, it's a state by state thing. Well, it's state by state without a doubt with regards to storage. But I will tell you, generally speaking, it's a lot leaner, more lenient, I beg your pardon, in with regards to self-storage than it certainly is with somebody who's renting a property from you. So the time frames on when they become late and how much they owe you and when you need to give them a notice for auction, which is, you have what's called an operator's lien you can establish on somebody's contents within the space you have rented to them if they fail to pay. And so, for instance, the time frames here, I have a policy of you're 6 days late. Now you're late. You're 6 days behind. Everybody's due on the first of the month, which makes it much easier for managing finances. And after 6 days, they're late. And where I am, it's I could be 10% of the rental rate or $20, whichever is greater.
That's good.
So that's kind of interesting. And so they automatically get charged that, and they know it. I mean, it's all up front. You should always have a lease that gets signed by anybody that is renting from you. And if they fail to sign, I actually incorporate into my agreement that if they don't sign the agreement, by virtue of them paying rent and putting their belongings in the unit, that they have agreed to it.
Absolutely. That's great. Very thoughtful.
Yeah.
People are always looking for different investment alternatives, and I think that self-storage is great. So you have two units, two buildings now, two
So I
facilities?
have two facilities. So I took the other facility, and I will tell you another. So I put that fence in, which gave me control finally, which is something that was absent. And I absolutely believe that was why it failed two times before, because this facility had been around for 10 years and failed twice. And then I doubled its size.
Nice.
And so I have about 60 units there now. And I also have open parking, and I'm about to expand again. So yeah, and I made sure, so this is key, right? You want to make sure you've always got room to expand. If you don't, you don't have the ability, except with raising rents, to realize an increase in revenues, right? So that was really important. And I integrated technology with that, which had never happened before. Website, woohoo! Really, really important. Make sure you're on Google and that you have a Google business account and you're set up with AdWords and you're running AdWord campaigns. Absolutely critical. Make
For
sure
all
you're
businesses.
escape. You can't escape Google.
Yeah.
That makes or breaks your storage business. That's where people go. And I would say to you that you need to make sure you're doing that, and also look at where you're located. If you can get on a main road and not be in a primary market, go for those areas that are tertiary markets. You're going to get a much better deal. You're going to find you're not in such heavy competition. Consider a feasibility study if you can afford to have one done, if it makes sense, especially if you're going to be spending a lot of money on purchasing an existing one. But I integrated technology. That was probably the second most important thing I did. I actually investigated, ended up settling on a company called Storage. And they have a product called Easy Storage, and it's super simple. They give me a website. They'll also do SEO if you want them to do that. They'll help out with AdWords. I manage my own. But they also, it's got a financial package and a back end for managing what's going on with payments. It auto bills. So I don't have anybody working for me.
And how automation's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really saved us a lot of time chasing tenants and depositing checks when it's can just be streamlined. It's such a time saver.
It's a time saver and it's a money saver too, as long as you're buying reasonably priced software. Joanne, because I will tell you that when you look at ROI on storage, like many other investments, the margins are razor thin. It's a cash cow as long as you're not financed to the hilt and you've got room for expansion. I've got this, I'll tell you about facility number two. So facility number one, found something existing, learned through trial and error, not a great way to learn, and then got that in a good spot and then said, okay, I'm going to do number two. So number two, once again, tertiary market, it's on the way to the lake. So I know I'm going to get, a mix of people that are local that want to store, but I'll also have some of that more seasonal business coming in with boats and trailers. So I decided I was going to create some boat storage, RV storage, and also do 10 by 20s, 10 by 20 storage units. So I have, yeah, I've got about 60 units here, and I'm about to expand again, and I have about 3.5 acres. So lots of room to grow, and I've done the dirt work and what have you, and it's got an enormous perimeter fence, so it's ready for expansion. But imagine this, I'm in the middle of building, and building starts behind me. And guess what's being built?
Oh no, not a self-storage unit.
An enormous self-storage unit right behind me on a comparable land. Now they're doing the same sort of they're doing mimicking me. The only difference is they're doing climate controlled and I stay away from climate controlled.
Mm.
So I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So we're both up and running now, and you would think we're in competition, except I'm full and they're empty.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is a big, this is not a small little facility. This is a good sized facility. Location.
Yeah,
They're not,
and you're right behind each other. But you have more street visibility, I'm assuming.
I have all street visibility, and they're behind me down a side street. They're
Yeah.
empty, I'm full. So location, I cannot stress enough that high visibility location, because as powerful as Google AdWords are for driving inquiries, you can't beat traffic. And you can't beat having a billboard right in front of your storage facility, um,
Oh,
promote storage facility.
visibility is everything. It's just crazy. You talked about security with the fences and cameras. Is there any other security? Do you have like someone who's on staff, or you just do it all yourself and they're just open areas? Like, how is it handled? Like, it's just a self-storage built facility out in the middle of wherever and people just come and
Yes.
go,
So
or
it's a very good question, and hence it's another reason really to have your storage facility on a main road, well lit. People are more likely to go down a side street to somewhere that's, if somebody's thinking of breaking in
yeah.
and they're
Hmm.
focusing on storage, they're going to look for something unfenced. They're going to look for something easy, unfenced, badly lit, and down a side street. They do
Not a lot
not
of visibility.
yeah, they don't want something well lit on a main road. So lots of security cameras. They're really visible. Lots of signage about security cameras. Lots of security lights. That's critical. You've got to be really well
Mhm.
lit, and those lights are on all night. No lighting inside the units. Really bad idea to have electricity available inside of, especially enclosed units. I do provide trickle power for the RVs and the boats,
Yeah.
but I have a system to monitor how much usage. So if they're not just using it for trickle power, I can tell. But you want to be really careful once again, get back to security, not to actually have electricity inside your storage units for a couple of reasons. One, you don't want people living there.
That
Again,
was the first one. I can see it happening.
it will happen.
Mhm.
Number two, and you have to be careful with RVs too, especially with RV parking, open parking, because you don't want people living there. So you don't want people living there. You don't want people doing nefarious things in there. Okay, I want you to think about this. You've got a storage facility, you really don't know what's in there. And they could, if you allow them electricity, now you're allowing another dimension to that facility, which could allow them to start growing things.
Or whatever. I
Or what?
mean, yeah.
So, yeah. So you want to stay away from that. And that's why we don't have lights in there. But security is huge. We do not have a security dogs. We don't have security guards. We haven't had a need for that, but you do want to make sure that you're offering insurance, optional insurance to your tenants so that if something does happen, you have all the security in place, as well as you said, I offered them insurance, they denied it, or if they did or rejected it, if they didn't reject it, then they have it, you're fine. Otherwise, you're going to find people once in a while will come and say, somebody broke into my unit. I lost this, this, and this. And they're looking at you.
And there's no way of knowing what they have for inventory in their storage unit.
No. And of course, you have something you're going to put into your storage agreement that indemnifies you. But this is an added layer of security for you. So there's different types of security for your customers. And then you've got to always be thinking about keeping yourself safe.
Absolutely. The so you don't have any on-site staff. Now, if
Now,
I wanted to rent one of your storage units, how would I go about it where you have a lot of your stuff automated? Is it done online? Do you meet
yeah.
them out at the facility? How is it actually handled if someone goes to your website and says, yeah, I want to rent a storage facility?
So I don't need anybody. Well,
Just
I've broken
David.
that rule a couple times, but generally speaking, no, I don't. So with a couple people that wanted to put their trailer in and wanted to make sure it was going to be big enough and they had turning radius, etc., I've met them. But very, very rarely do I meet anybody. Particularly, I'm not meeting somebody to rent them a 10 by 20. First of all, you've got security issues. If you're going there by yourself, at night to a store, you know what I mean? It's like doing an open house as an agent. You've got to be
Yeah.
really careful, right? You always want to have somebody else there, etc. So there's no need for it. I show them pictures online of what they're going to be renting. I already have online what the layout of the facility is. This is a low touch to almost no touch business that you can structure. Now, the storage facility that I'm competing with that is behind me, that I talked about earlier, they have an office. They're doing it traditionally. I can't imagine how they're realizing
Right.
return on investment. The numbers don't add up. You've got to really, really run lean, and do your math. Do your math before you buy.
It all changes. And like, so your insurance that you're offering them, is that like a sub insurance through your current insurance company? So they kind of put a package
So
together
it's a
for you?
really, really great question, Joanne, because so the company that I work with, the technology partner that I have that I'm very happy with, and I went with their lowest product. I started with their highest product, their most robust product, and I was like, okay, this is way more than I need. So be very careful you're not overbuying. Start small and then decide if you need to upgrade. Um, and they provide an optional insurance program that I can turn on or off. And I
Mhm.
actually get a small revenue share out of it. So it's, any way you can add to your bottom line. I will tell you open parking. I want you to think about if you're gonna, lay out a storage facility or take one over, parking. If you can get people to use your facility for parking, there's virtually no expense to that other than your capital expenditure for the facility, right?
Yep.
So if you have that space, you're not building a structure, people can park, you're going to put up some signs, some numbers. But if you've got vacant land to your facility that's sitting fallow, that's a great way of augmenting your bottom line. So I strongly suggest trying to find that or add that as an element of your overall facility. Obviously, it can't be. I've seen people have that as their only offering, but if you're looking at really developing a robust facility that sort of answers consumers' needs, in terms in this area because of boats, et cetera, we've got the
Mhm.
covered boat facilities. We've got open storage, which is the open parking, and then 10 by 20s and 10 by 10s.
What do you think is the most popular size that people rent?
That's another great question. That was one question I asked, and I will tell you that's going to vary location by location and who your customers are and you've got to kind of think about who's going to be my customer and what are they going to be looking to store. So I would say that I was told by another storage owner in Wisconsin who I was picking their brain because they'd done it for a while and how they did things. And she had said that 10 by 20s were her most popular. And I would say that they are very popular size. 10 by 30s, you're almost getting too big. I've got some facilities where I've got a row of 10 by 20s on one side, 10 by 10 on the other, and I can break through in between if somebody wants a 10 by
Oh, it's a
30.
big one. Yep.
Yeah, but I'm really moving as I mentioned earlier, we're going to expand again shortly, and I'm going with actually 8 by 10s.
I Yeah, I can see it, just an 8 by 10 just being a nice size. What about, so now you're talking about expanding. So 'cause one of my questions was going to be, what about starting a facility? But now you're going to be adding on. So I believe there are companies out there that will just come in and install them for you. Like you can buy it as a kit.
Yeah. So that is you're asking super duper questions. So you're hitting all the right ones. Um, and on reflection, so I bought facility one. Okay, it's Pinky Storage, by the way. That's the name of the facility. They're called Pinky Storage, and that's another thing I did. I wanted them to these facilities to stand out as a landmark where they were, and so they're bright white buildings, and they have vibrant fuchsia pink doors.
It's your color, Fiona.
Look, well, you can see I've got some pink on. I don't know if you can, yeah, a little pink
There
anyway.
you go.
So anyway, that is what I did for branding. And we have the logo is a pink flamingo's head wrapped around a ribbon for supporting breast cancer. And so
Love
a
it.
portion of every rental goes towards that very important charity that we support. But so I wanted to create a landmark within the community that nobody could miss, right? And being on that main road helped for that. But the first facility that we did was kind of already built to a degree. And so we had that traditional structures that sat on a cement foundation, right?
Yeah,
Now we're moving towards, hindsight's 2020, towards portable structures.
really.
Yeah. And this is the reason. Now, when I say portable, they can be lifted with a fork. You have to have a forklift. I mean, we're not talking something small. But these are things that get delivered to your site. They can be erected very quickly. You just get a team in, and then you need a forklift. They'll move it around, and you don't have to put them on cement or concrete. They're not tethered there. You place them where you want them. And the great part of that is mitigating expense, reducing your expenses. But you can also move them if you change your design or say, I want to expand again, and you realize, darn it, that's too close. I wish I could have had it over here. You're not stuck. And most importantly, 10 years down the road, let's say land values have gone up sharply. What's around you has changed. And now that land being storage is not highest and best use. You can remove those, sell the land, and sell those units.
Yeah, no,
Versus,
I was thinking what you were saying is taking basically renting the sheds or the storage units to the homeowner who would
yeah,
keep it on their site and just
like a
pay you
pod,
monthly,
like a pods
like a
con.
pod. But a lot of
Yeah.
times with the pods, they pick them up and they bring them to a facility and they store it until you're ready to move it. But and I was thinking you were saying just
No,
they get the
no,
pod and they pay monthly for that. So
I'm
you would
talking
store
about,
them.
yeah, having really what I would call a semi-permanent structure that you don't have to have a cement pad for. Yeah, you're going to put down fine grit, what have you, but you don't have to have, because that gets very pricey. And that you can move, but perhaps most importantly, you've always got to have an eye when you're building your business to selling your business every single day. And a part of that is if I sell it, if I just have it available when I sell it to other people wanting storage, I'm limiting myself. If I can actually sell that land to somebody who might be able to give me more money based on highest and best use being something else, I don't want to limit myself. So this
So you would
second
just relocate the storage, build storage units to another location.
or
Yeah,
sell, you
or
know what I
some.
mean? They're very saleable. So if they're portable, somebody can come and take it down, transport it, what have you. I might not get what I paid, but that's fine. I've got another asset I could sell, or I can sell it as storage.
I
But
think
that's
that's
always
nice.
been something that's troubled me is that it's such a permanent thing that you've done to the land. And so leaving yourself with something that's, gives you a little bit more options when you're selling. So All the expansion we'll do from now on will be with things that are semi-permanent structures. And by the way, I think they're better built than what I've already erected and have a better seal. Their doors, instead of being roll-up doors, they're actually more like a freezer door, on the industrial
Yep,
freezers.
yep.
So you're protecting, once again, your tenants against rodents, et cetera, getting in. And that's a fact of storage.
And I'm assuming they're stackable.
These probably would be stackable. We have not got to a place that we would need to do stacking, and I honestly think I don't know if we ever will. I think we'll stick with probably just because of the liability. We let people back there. If people were going into the second level, I'd be concerned without a proper forklift or something to lift things up and down. I don't know.
See,
We
I'm
haven't got.
thinking just like the boats, you want to take your boat out of the
Yes,
slip, you have to call ahead.
yes,
I don't
yes.
know, we can
And
work
you
on
can.
this, Fiona. This could be a new thing for we'll have to. I like the idea of storage units. Like I said, I'm in the mobile home parks, but I've thought about actually putting a small self-storage unit on at our community for the residents. Because
Yeah.
there's never enough storage. It's amazing all the stuff we collect. But I don't want to keep you. I could talk to you for hours about this stuff because I love all types of investments. And it's just awesome. I really appreciate all your wisdom and knowledge with this. And thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks so much, Joanne, for having me on this show. And, it's just been a pleasure. And you're just such a consummate businesswoman. It's always a pleasure to connect with a like-minded lady.
Right back at you. Love it. Have a great day, Fiona. Thank you so
Take care.
much. We'll see you
Take
again.
care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.